Hello, camera. It has occurred to me that I don't have to actually be able to see you. So, I'm going to talk. And I'm going to talk for a little bit. So this is not going to be a short. And I'm going to put it up to YouTube after the first take. I'm not going to redo it because, might as well have a before I got glammed up and got teeth. I have spent a lot of time in pain, and it's not as scary anymore, but I do recognize that pain is a disability because it just consumes so much of your attention. My pain has consumed so much of my time and my energy and my oomph that it is a disability. I am not currently experiencing pain, which makes it easier to talk to you, even though I don't have any teeth. I am one of MAGA's early victims. I need to get more comfortable talking about what happened to me. And frankly, I'm really kind of impressed with the internet. My partner doesn't want me to dox myself unnecessarily or at all, because of course that would affect my partner. But I need help. And this is the first time in my life that I see the government as a nemesis. Not the government as a whole, just MAGA. Again, I started this, I think, by saying that I was one of MAGA's early victims. In 2014, I was given a shot by my doctor of Lupron, Lupron, made by AbbVie, Abbvie. And within 45 minutes, I had a Charlie horse in my uterus that didn't go away until I had surgery in 2016. So imagine a Charlie horse. We've all had a Charlie horse. Most of us have had one at some point or another. And I had a Charlie horse in my uterus from 2014 spring until surgery in summer 2016. And that was the first time I experienced disability. I asked for help, and I'm just going to have to get comfortable talking about this because one person on this planet has been trying to put me in jail since, 2016? Right. Yes. Okay, so I have been in forensic interviews with someone who has been arming idiots and terrifying people with prophetic premonitions that weren't even this person's. They were always quoting somebody else, and their pronoun isn't they. I'm just trying to be nebulous and ambiguous because who it is doesn't really matter. It was MAGA. It was this mentality that people like me are useless eaters is the word I have actually had experience with. It's like, wait a second, what? YouTube doesn't allow you to say some stuff, and I'm not actually sure what YouTube lets you say and what it doesn't let you say. I experienced corruption for the very first time in my life Okay, so 2014, I got that shot. I didn't experience the corruption until I think 2016. 2016 is when I went to court and got a restraining order against the man who was beating my son in my business. The business that I certified with 4 generations of Nazarenes in 1997. So in 1997, I'll stop the video abruptly if somebody enters the room, but not because I'm hiding anything. They just don't know that I'm recording. And I'm trying to be vulnerable and demonstrate my vulnerability, not because I'm proud of my vulnerability, but because people have forgot that people like me exist. I have experienced MAGA hate for 8 full years from people I love, and people who don't even know me. I remember crying in the lift because I was coming home from a doctor's appointment at Kaiser Permanente, and we crossed the picket line, or the picket lines, and frankly, I'm kind of old school in that regard. You're not supposed to be crossing picket lines, and I was just acknowledging that I hate to cross the picket line. Anyways, this complete stranger felt comfortable explaining to me. I understand that at that point, I had been hiding from MAGA for years already, and I was finally getting some medical attention for medical problems that had been dismissed as mental illness because, again, MAGA people are not making sense. I ended up having all my teeth out, and that took care of that medical problem. Because when I had that Lupron, I lost a lot of bone. And even though I had never had a cavity before Lupron, I have now had all of my teeth removed because of the bone loss. And when you have good teeth and all of a sudden the nerves are all exposed, it's extremely painful. Anyways, I had a complete stranger explain to me why MAGA is going to kill me and people like me for our testimony. Now, you don't get pulled into forensic interviews for no reason, and it's going to take a long time before I get out all the things that I want to talk about, and I'm sure there's some things that'll never get said because there just isn't enough time to ruminate that much in the hate that I marinated in. From family and friends, from people from church. And strangers, complete strangers, have no problem explaining in what year was that? Like during Trump's first administration. They had no qualms about just telling people, issuing death threats on people, complete strangers, because, we need to be put in our place for some reason. Well, here I am. I already put one video out there where I cried, and I don't want this to be another video of that, so I apologize. I was going to talk until I felt like I said what I needed to say, and I'm not satisfied yet that I've got through what I need to say yet, but I also know that it's not realistic to think that I'm ever going to get out what I need to say. I just need to get out enough right now in order for me to sleep at night, knowing that I put out proof of life. I don't know what Salem Police Department. I think the best way to approach this video today is for me to explain that Salem Police Department under Trump's first administration was absolutely corrupt. Marion County has flipped from blue to red because when you threaten people like me until they are hiding from violence, they're not going to be talking to people like you about what happened. I mean, I'm still crying over stuff that happened 8 effing years ago because I don't get to see my kids. I don't know that I would recognize them if I saw them. Doesn't help that I can't see very well, so you got to give me a little bit of that. Anyways, all right. Where am I wearing a unicorn head? One of the things I have said, and let me parenthetically say again, this video isn't going to make sense. I did not write an outline. This is not something that's going to go up as a professional example of my ability. This is a mother talking about what's wrong with this world. Because we have a president who is threatening our friends and our family, and they're aligning with the people who are the terrorists in this planet. There was a point I was talking to my church via emails. I was talking to the UN Security Council about Musk funding terrorism on Twitter. And when I was talking to my church specifically about Palestine and how we cannot keep fueling the hate. We're as a church, the Nazarene Church is acting like we're somehow blameless in this war that we created by overfunding farmers on a land that had been generationally inhabited by nomadic people. I spent 20 years doing exactly what I wanted to do, when I wanted to do it, taking off time as I needed to for my chronic anemia, menorrhagia, because they used to call it von Willebrand's disease. Apparently my kids have been given a diagnosis that it's something a little bit different, but I don't know what that is because I don't talk to my kids. Why don't I talk to my kids? Because Salem Police Department was on the wrong side of the law under Trump's first administration. I witnessed, there was a point when I had to address my son's behavior with the authorities. And it was enlightening because I was with, her name was Bobby Cogswell. I like her. She was wonderful. I hope that she's doing well. She was a professional at the state, and I was impressed with her. Nothing bad to say about her. So she was reading the file and reading what the officer who came to talk to me when I turned my son in. And and the quote about that the officer said I said, I quite simply didn't say that. Now, it didn't affect my son at all. I did tell Bobby at the time that the officer lied, but it didn't really affect anything. I just thought that was weird. But it escalated. Not against my son or anything, completely separate issues altogether. Salem Police Department has been trying to get me put in jail since I fled violence that they endorsed, and we're just going to call it MAGA violence because it came from the people who started MAGA. And I'm not going to talk specifically about the who's and the who's right now. Not the who thieves either. We're not blameless there either. My mind goes a mile a minute. I have experienced domestic terrorism. I've experienced unyielding pain that I endured for a long time, and it kind of breaks your brain in a way. My teeth came out in October, and I recognize that I sound crazy now. In 2016, maybe 2015, I actually Googled, or whatever the search engine was at the time, PTSD, because I had taken out a restraining order against my family member for beating my son in the business I certified to protect all of my mother's grandchildren back in 1997. And my mother was worried about her son going to jail. And I took out the restraining order. I have to worry about whether or not I'm going to go to jail for this video. So I'm trying very hard to not say things that will end me put in jail. And oddly enough, talking about the violence against my son isn't the thing that the Salem Police Department will have a problem with me saying. So I can talk pretty freely about the fact that my brother Alex beat my son in my own business because he had actually gone to the psych hospital to try to get admitted, and he was threatening to jump off of a bridge, specifically the one going over the Willamette at Marion Street. And when your brother is at the loony bin trying to get admitted and they don't accept him, they don't help him, they send him on his way, I told him, come live with us. And that was the right decision. The problem was when the Salem Police Department would not tell him he can't beat my kid in my business, in my house, in my mom's house. They were adjacent to each other. The Salem Police endorsed the violence against my son. They endorsed locking him away. Teenage boys are hungry. He is also a type 1 diabetic. They endorsed Alex locking my son out of our own freezer, our own garage. Why was that a problem? Because Alex kept his drugs in my open garage and they got stolen. He shouldn't have had his drugs in my garage. I would have told him to lock them up. That's not what happened. Anyways, I need to emphasize at this point, I'm incredibly proud of how Alex has handled this last decade. He's not MAGA. He's got his own set of problems, and I am proud of him. What I'm horrified by is when I asked any of the authorities that were available to me. So McKay High School reported to them and their resource officer. The Salem Police Department reported to the child care certifier. I talked to everybody I could. And I couldn't get a single person to simply explain to Alex it's not mutual combat when you're hitting somebody else's kid in a childcare. It's just illegal. It's just illegal. And I couldn't get a single authority figure to tell Alex, don't beat Veronica's kid. That is a problem. And then when I couldn't get anybody to stop that, the violence went to me. And I'm not going to embellish or talk much about what Alex did to me. However, he shouldn't have. It's just that simple. And me reporting it was what I was supposed to do. And having Salem Police Department endorse the violence enough that I ended up sleeping on the streets of Portland. There was an SOS shelter and on Gleason. I think it was 535 Northwest Gleason Street, below where they released men from, it was a halfway house for men on the second story, or at least that's what I was told. And I had a beautiful white jacket, which I don't know how I didn't experience anything more horrible than just the fear of being out there, because I looked like a target. But I did. I had the most miserable thing about my time spent homeless was that I was in too much pain to enjoy it, and I didn't have enough oxygen to see. I had been admitted to the ICU in December of 2016, and I was at the SOS shelter, I think, in February of 2017. There was snow on the ground. I knew so many people at the Nazarene Church that I would have wanted to. I really think that if I had talked to them then, that they would have offered me a place to sleep. But I couldn't explain the irrational fear my family had of dealing with reality. And my sister, Jessica, heck, I don't know where she lives or where she works anymore, so I'm not going to care that much about having used her name. But after I talked to McKay, after I talked to the Salem Police, after I talked to, after I had the kids in counseling, Debbie Lute, Beverly Hutchinson, those are professionals that were supposed to help my children with the violence that they endured by Alex. And when I told the certifier, I told my sister, Jessica, I have a problem with Alex. He can't be doing this. It's illegal on so many different levels. First of all, if he were doing this to anybody else's kid, mom's going to get arrested. But the fact that he's doing it to my kid doesn't make it any better. But because anyways, what was Jessica's response? The brilliant thing that she did. She told, I'm going to feel okay saying that. I can't say anything more than that on that. But what I can say is that I have experienced so much MAGA hate since then that it's changed who I am as a human being. Bad PTSD. I've got like post-terrorism disorder. I was looking at I identify more with people who have who have experienced warfare than domestic violence, because domestic violence is domestic. Like, it's like your home. This wasn't domestic violence. This was violence that followed me. This is violence that has still alienated me from everybody that I loved and cared about. It put me in forensic interviews, which then makes me antisocial, because don't tell me there are people that I quit talking to. I explained to them that the FBI is going to be allowed to look at every single chat I have. I've already had the FBI here looking for anthrax. I was accused of sending anthrax in an envelope that wasn't even sealed. Let's think about how crazy that is. If you're going to put anthrax into an envelope, wouldn't you want to seal it? I didn't even seal the stinking envelope, but I was accused of sending anthrax. So the FBI have been here, and I have been under the protection of Washington County Court from until 2024 March. My last forensic interview was in March of 2024, and I did court. I had my day in court at Northwest Forensics, testified for me. I asked my lawyer to protect my accuser, because I did not want to be the cause of that person's imprisonment. By then, I was pretty convinced that our judicial system is really terrible. And I didn't want to impose that on anybody. Now, when Alex was beating my kid, I was kind of okay with him going to jail, I have to admit. However, my mother was convinced that it was his third strike. And I left instead of testifying to have him put in jail. And I want to be very clear that Alex has not terrorized me at all. Not since leaving Salem at all. And my children have asked me to forgive him, and I have forgiven him ages ago. And I have told him over and over again over these 8 years, maybe not all 8 years, that I'm proud of him. My partner is coming out from the other room now, so I'm going to be sociable and turn this off. And I'm going to post this because if MAGA is going to work this hard to silence people like me, I have to do something.